Attention, everybody, attention, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. If you are up and mingling, it's been a good run. We ask that you take a seat if you can and be ready to be amazed at today's event. Thank you. Gabriel Davies. Gabriel Davies.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out to this year's Pursue for Change event. My name is Gabriel Davies, and I am happy to have the opportunity of being able to stand up here and speak in front of all of you today. I came here about a year ago, and I've been able to have the chance to be a part of this incredible group called Capital Classroom. If anyone doesn't know what this group does, we work with advocates inside and outside of this institution to help spread awareness and eventually pass this bill that we are working. I hope today that you find our words educational and inspirational, and we hope that you enjoy what we have in store for you today. I would now like to welcome someone up to the mic. This person has been the biggest sponsor we have had here. She has been right by the side of Capital Classroom since the start. For a further welcome, I'd like to introduce Senator Frank.
Good afternoon. We'll try it again. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm Noelle Frame, state senator from the 36th district in the north part of Seattle. And next year's vice chair of the Human Services Committee, working with Senator Claire Wilson. Madam Chair, I should have said, Madam Chair. I also want to say, I think I see Representative Daria Farivar and Senator-elect Bill Ramos as legislative colleagues who are in the room. Did I miss anybody? Yeah. Thank you to my colleagues for being here, and thank you to every one of you for being here. I want to just share, it has been the honor of my life, and I'm going to just preface this. I straight up might cry in the next couple of minutes. I get really emotional talking about this group of young people. And I say young people because we are here today with our young men. We've also worked with our young women at Echo Glen in the lead up to this piece of legislation and the legislation this last year. I joined the legislature 9 years ago, and I was looking for an opportunity to serve. And somebody said, oh, that Partnership Council for Juvenile Justice has a gap. Will you serve on that? And oh, could you take some bills and lean in there? And little did those members of the legislature know that I had people in my own family who had been touched by the carceral system. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to think about that. And starting in the 2017 session, I connected with these young people here at Green Hill. And by the 2018 session, we were working on a bill together. And we passed a bill together in 2018, and we passed a bill together in 2019. And my great hope is we will pass a bill together again in 2024. Yeah. We talk a lot in the policymaking process, at least a lot of us do, about this concept of those closest to the harm are often closest to the solutions. Nothing could be truer of this community of young people. When I say it's been the privilege of my life to be in space with such brilliance, such self-awareness, young people who have made tremendous mistakes. And let's all say that out loud. They have. They've made tremendous mistakes, and they've taken accountability for it. And they've committed to make themselves better. And they've not only committed to make themselves better, they've committed to make the whole system better, not just for the young people coming behind them, but the communities that have been harmed by their actions, so that we can interrupt that harm before it happens. And we can catch those young people who make mistakes, wrap our arms around them, make sure that when they go back into their communities, they're stronger and better than they ever have been before. And we hope be the leaders that they've been on the inside and the outside. So, yeah. I'm going to wrap this up just to say, I want to say out loud and acknowledge it's been a really hard year. It's been a really hard year. And as somebody who works for the state, we have perpetuated harm against these young people. Not just some young people sitting in this room with us right now. I want to once again apologize on behalf of the state of Washington for what we did. I hope we never do it again. I hope we learned. And I hope that we come together around solutions so we don't set ourselves up for that level of failure again, because it was failure. It was systemic failure, and you all took the brunt of that, and it wasn't right. And I don't want us to ever be in that situation again. But I want to thank DCYF for having this conversation today. I'm looking at you. Thank you for allowing us to do this again. This is at least the third time we've had the Pursuit for Change event. It really, really, really matters. Not just to the young people, but to all of us who get to be in space with them. And I think it's good for the policymaking process. Let's find solutions together, y'all. Let's be creative. Let's be thoughtful. And let's never do what we did this last year. Let's let these young people help guide the way to solutions and set ourselves up to send them back into their communities better than they have before, and hopefully prevent other young people from ever stepping foot inside this building. Thank you for the privilege of being here. Am I supposed to introduce you? When I say brilliance, Ron Ackerson. There you go.
Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to be in this space with you all today. Man, first I want to kind of highlight Pursuit for Change. The original reason of this event was kind of to get some of the guys to be able to share spaces with people who are in power and people who like we usually don't have conversations with, or we may feel like are on the other side of us. So they've been doing this for a long time. This is my second year. My peers that actually helped me to become a part of this type of work are no longer here. They all aged out, and it's just crazy because I remember being one of the youngest here, and now it's like I feel like I have the torch and I have to pass it on to the rest of these guys. So I'm excited to be here with you all, and also we're here for the bill, Youth Hope Act. Okay, I want to tell you guys a little bit about Youth Hope Act. So Youth Hope Act is a bill that was created by youth, and we've had the opportunity to be able to work with legislators like Senator Frame and our wonderful lobbyist, Emily. She's always, and everyone who hops on those calls, all of our advocates and everyone who supports us, you know, day in and day out, I really do appreciate it. We all do. This bill, the Youth Hope Act, is something that can make a difference right now for a population on this campus. I truly believe. The Youth Hope Act is basically you to commit to non-aggression, commit to not being involved in gang violence, and commit to being involved in the programs and the opportunities that they have here. Like, we want to pat those guys on the back and, you know, like, give them a chance to redeem themselves. I feel like in the state of Washington, there's really like, once you get sentenced, you go through the system and then you're forgotten about, you know? You never see that judge again. You never hear about the prosecutor, any of that, you know? And I feel like we need some type of review. We need to see what are happening to these young people, you know? Because yes, we've made very serious mistakes, but we are the next coming up generation, and it's important to know that our youth are healed, you know? It's important to know that people are healing and not just doing time, you know? Anyone can just do time, but what were you doing during that time? So what this bill is really doing is highlighting those individuals at the age of 24. They will be able to put in a petition to the ISRB, the intermediate recent, I'm not gonna quote it, I'm not gonna lie, no, intermediate something, but the ISRB is already established board that they use for like some of the juveniles who have like over 20 years, they have to see that ISRB board at their 20-year mark to release them, or at 25 or not. So basically we're not creating something new, we're using that same board and we want to implement it here. And basically at the age of 24, youth will be able to go up against this board. And I feel like the important thing is like, oh, we're just letting out criminals, oh, we're just letting these guys out. But the ISRB has showed that they are very effective in what they do. And like, you really have to meet this criteria. You know, you really have to show, you know, and also I feel like it's important to know that public safety is one of the #1 things that this bill is really trying to ensure, because we understand how important it is to keep our community safe. Also, man, yeah, so I'm really excited to be here with you all today. And this bill, I feel like, has already inspired hope in a lot of us, and it's not even passed. You know, I talk to young guys about this bill, and like they tell me, "What? I'll stop, I'll stop gaming, I'll stop what?" And I'm like, things like that that can actually move a person or make them actually think about life. And if I have another chance to see my siblings, to be with my mom, you know, our family that we've been away for so long, you know, why would you not want to take advantage of that opportunity? And it's also important that not only you see the board at 24 and you get released at the age of 25, but the importance of people who may not be ready, like they have the chance to be able to meet in front of these people, and they can tell them like what they feel they still need to work on and what programs, and direct them in the right direction. So we know that these guys are actually doing what they need to do, because they will be released one day. And we want to ensure that we are releasing leaders, strong people who want to build their community. So we, on the Zoom, we have our Echo Glen girls on there. They've been supporting us through this journey too. It's been great being able to hop on the Zoom with them, because, you know, as a man, I don't know what it's like to be a woman in that experience in incarceration. So I feel it's very important that all people are at the table, all youth are involved. And we have them here, and they actually created a video that we would like to show you guys here today.
Hi everyone, thank you all for being here. My name is Alexis and this is Lola. We are not there physically, but we are here virtually with other legislators. We wanted to give you all a special thanks for attending the Pursuit for Change event and giving us the opportunity to talk to everyone about the Youth Hope Act. Thank you all for being here. My name is Alexis, I'm 23 years old and I'm currently a resident at Echo Glen. So I've been incarcerated since I was 17, and while being incarcerated, I've got my cosmetology license. I graduated from college with my associates in cultural anthropology. I work for an organization called Justice for Girls, and I am currently employed by the Washington State Library.
My name is Lola Luna. I'm 20 years old and I'm a resident at Echo Glen Children's Center. I just completed my AA in Human Services. I'm involved with the Justice for Girls advocacy group here on campus, and I work at the Washington State Library.
I was sentenced to 15 years in prison for the worst choices I made at the age of 16. As a youth, this is a life sentence. By the time I'm released, it will mean I have spent half of my life in prison. Since being in a rehabilitation facility, I've been in an environment where I'm learning new life skills, developing into a different person, and viewing the world in a new way. I'm also growing into a healthy adult. As I serve my time, I continue to learn that my childhood trauma, such as growing up in foster care and being around violence, led me to involve myself in horrible behaviors. While being in rehabilitation, I've also learned that I can live a different way and be a different person than who I was when I committed my offense. I've become aware of my actions and how they impact myself and others. I also live every day with the understanding that we must all be held accountable for those actions. But the reality is, there is no sentence length that a court could impose on a person who's gained awareness and who's gained humanity and must live with their life choices, knowing that they have caused harm to others. I've gained my sense of humanity, and I've become aware, and I believe that I am one of the many youthful offenders who has become aware and takes accountability for their actions and lives with the initiative to engage in rehabilitation with the effort to learn a new way of life.
I was arrested when I was 16 years old, and I was sentenced to 14 years in prison. I was released out on bail, and at that time I had a son. Having a son has made me see my situation from a different point of view. I have and still am learning how to be accountable for my actions. I have learned so many things that I would never have learned if it wasn't for rehabilitation in Echo Glen Children's Center. Echo Glen has given me the chance to get my GED, and I just got my AA in Human Services. Being at Echo Glen has given me the resources and skills to become a better mother in a rehabilitative environment. I am proud of myself for the person I am becoming for myself and for my son. Having a son and being incarcerated is one of the hardest things I have ever been through, and I would do anything to be there with him today. Me sitting in a cell for the next 14 years will never heal the pain and trauma that I have brought among people. I am going to spend a part of my life in prison for a decision that I made when I was a child. While I fully understand that I should be held responsible for my actions, I believe we should also be given a second chance to show the community how much we have grown since we committed our offenses.
Having youth in prison for decades is not decreasing crime or reducing recidivism. It in fact is increasing it. There are many studies out there that show recidivism rates are higher for youth who are automatically transferred into the adult system than for youth who stay in the juvenile system and are given the chance to rehabilitate.
I am not the same person I was when I committed my offense, and I wish I could have the opportunity to show the community that. According to the National Institute of Justice, children of incarcerated parents are on average 6 times more likely to become incarcerated themselves. This bill would be giving me the chance to break the cycle of generational incarceration. Having a second chance to be in my son's life and be a mother would not only impact my life, but his as well. Please think about the hidden victims of incarcerated people. Thank you, and I urge your support of this bill.
The Youth Hope Act would provide the possibility for youth to never experience the adult system, limiting the possibility of institutionalization and increasing the possibility to be living examples of transformation for the younger generation. I believe that the Youth Hope Act would be able to bridge a gap between offenders and the law enforcement by experiencing our legal system providing us with opportunities and chances to effectively contribute to our societies. Having youth spend decades in prison, resulting in us becoming institutionalized, while having society carry the expectation that when we enter back into the communities in our 30s and 40s and be successful members, is unjust and has proven ineffective. There must be a balance between rehabilitation and institutionalization, and I believe the Youth Hope Act provides this balance. We are turning to you all and asking for your support in passing the Youth Hope Act.
If I was granted the opportunity to release, I would focus on my son's childhood and making sure that it was vastly different from mine. I would want to get him into an academically gifted school. I would like to focus on making sure his life is structured and that I'm constantly there and making sure that he is making the correct choices and making sure that I am giving him the support that I didn't have, and just making sure that as he grows older throughout his life that he has someone there instead of just visiting his parents, or instead of just visiting his parent behind bars and getting his support from people that don't genuinely want to support him. Since I've been incarcerated, I've seen a whole different side of the system that I didn't know existed before. And so I specifically want to work with young Mexican-American youth who are going down the same path that I had went down, that if I would have had that support, then I probably wouldn't have been here.
If I was granted the opportunity for reentry, I would continue to work for Justice for Girls Coalition. I would also engage in as a woman who has experienced abuse and domestic violence, I have a intimate desire to work with women and young people who have experienced trauma, and I plan to dedicate my life to helping young women see their worth and their value, because I've learned that when a young woman doesn't feel loved and she's experienced trauma, that she's more likely to involve herself with people who don't love her and influence the trauma. And so from my personal experience, as I said, if I was granted approval, acceptance, I would use that opportunity to work with youth who are struggling and are homeless, who are victims and survivors of abuse, and try to lead as an example of what not to do, but also how you are not your worst choice, and the harms that we do, though we will never be able to change what we've done or make up for the harm that we've caused, I personally would spend the rest of my life helping at least one other person not cause the harm that I caused.
Thank you for listening to our stories, and special thanks to the legislators and special guests that made their way out to Chehalis for this event. Back to the gentleman at Green Hill.
Hello? Okay. So next up, we will be bringing up Grace, and she will be talking to us about brain science. Grace?
Good afternoon. How are we? Doing good? That's the most excited response that I've gotten. I'm really excited to be with you here today. My name is Grace. I'm going to be talking to you about the brain science, the developmental science. I'm an ambassador today of what we know about the adolescent brain and adolescent development, because in a past life, that was what I did. I had 12 years in research where I got to study adolescent development, adolescent decision-making, and that's what I get to bring to you today. And in fact, the brain science and the developmental science that I'll be talking about is the same kind of science that has been cited by courts across the nation, including the Supreme Court, when they make decisions pertaining to how we treat youth in the justice system. I'm going to be talking about that science. And in fact, that's the same science that is referenced in the draft of the bill, at least the one that I have seen. So that's what I get to talk to you about today. It's one of my favorite things, and you're probably going to sense kind of that enthusiasm here. If you were to look at some of those decisions from, for instance, the Supreme Court, whether that's Roper v. Simmons or Miller v. Alabama, what you would see in those opinions is language that goes something like this: that youth are different from adults in ways that warrant differential treatment by the justice system, in ways that warrant leniency. And that's usually attributed to two things. One, their developmental immaturity, so-called. That shows up in ways that we think, oh, gotta be real careful here. I'm a pacer, so we're gonna see how this goes. And that shows up in two ways, like could be the developmental immaturity marked by impulsivity, the things that we think about or associate with this period of life of adolescence. And this also shows up as amenability to rehabilitation, that they have an increased, adolescents have an increased amenability to rehabilitation. So anchoring to that, supported by the brain science, by studies of brain development, MRI, in the field of psychology, of also criminology. What we know about the brain, we've known for a long time, starting, in fact, with the first juvenile court, which was, does anyone know where that was? The first juvenile court, except for you, I know that you know. In Chicago, yeah, Cook County, that's right, Cook County, Illinois. In 1899, that was long before we had MRIs, before we had sophisticated technology to be able to image the brain. And we've known since then that adolescents are different than adults. We've known that since then. And we've also seen the philosophical pendulum swing between issuing punishment and leveraging rehabilitation historically since that time. What hasn't changed is the fundamental fact that adolescents are different than adults. What we now know, we know better than ever in greater detail, just in what ways adolescents are different. And that's what I get to talk to you about right now. So let's get into that, because development is not linear and it's very exciting. That's what I want to talk to you about. Let's take a big step back and ask, when does adolescence start and begin? I'll spoil just a little bit. It starts around puberty. When do we know that adolescence is over? 25, 26, 25, yep. Why do we say that? Where does that come from? Yes. The brain, right? That's what we say. We say, okay, well, the brain is developed and it's developed by 25. That's where we get that anchor that adolescence continues until 25. But what does that really mean? The brain continues to develop until 25, because we often say that and hear that without getting into the nuance of what does it really mean to continue to develop. and is often used almost as an insult. Ah, you're not developed. You're not developed until 25, and it's anything but. It's anything but. I'm going to tell you about 3 broad domains of development that we know are changing rapidly across the course of adolescence. The first is emotional development. Emotional development is anchored in the limbic system. That's a part of your brain, deep inside the brain, that's processing emotions. If you held out your hand and you tucked your thumb under and you wrapped your fingers around where your thumb is, that's the limbic system. And that part of the brain, starting at puberty, is changing rapidly. And actually what we're going to do by the end of today, we're all going to write down what our worst memories of puberty were. And we're going to be talking about that in, okay, no? You guys don't want to do that? Okay. But at that time, the brain is changing rapidly. There's all these hormones that are influencing it. And from puberty to about the age of 18, we see this increase in emotional intensity, emotional reactivity. It peaks around age 18, which is the age of majority, right? That's when we're legally adults, and that's just where it's peaking before it starts to gradually decline into the mid-20s, right? So we have this emotional intensity peaking around 18, and this is responsible for such wonderful things: drive to do things that are new, drive to do things that are exciting. And in fact, during adolescence, the amount of dopamine in the brain, and dopamine is responsible for that sensation of pleasure. So when you guys all got up today, you had that first sip of coffee and you were like, oh God, that's amazing. That's all dopamine in the brain. And there's more dopamine in the brain during adolescence than there ever is after. It's all downhill. So if you're after 25, it's over for us. It's over for us, right? So that's higher during the adolescent period than it ever is again. But that is responsible for these passions, identity formation, and probably one of the most important things is peer connection and finding your identity and values in those around you. One of the reasons that peers are so important is because of this part of the brain. All right, that's one part. Okay, we're going to talk about a second area of development. That's cognitive development. And that is going to be in your prefrontal cortex, right here, right in front. So if we were using our hand again, it's going to be where your knuckles are. Sometimes it's called the CEO of the brain because it's responsible for complex tasks and decision making. So your ability to think abstractly, to weigh the pros and cons, to get yourself here to Green Hill today, all of that is thanks to your prefrontal cortex, the ability to think ahead, to plan for your future. How do my actions now prepare me or not for what I want to do with my life? That's all here. The second thing, actually, before I say that, I want to make a nod here because that's a really complex process, right? Being able to weigh the pros and cons of something. And if you were to look at how that develops over the course of adolescence, it's actually very well developed by about 15 or 16. So if you took an adolescent and you were to ask them, what are the pros and cons of a given medical procedure? What are the implications of a criminal conviction? And you were to compare their answers to an adult, you would find that they are quite similar. Adolescents do not suffer from a deficit in cognition. The other thing that the prefrontal cortex does that's really important is impulse control. It helps us pump the brakes so that we can choose, rather than to react to something, that we can respond to something. That is a critical, very critical role of that prefrontal cortex. And that actually brings me to the third part, the third domain of development in adolescence, which is the development of self-regulation, our capacity to regulate our own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And unlike cognitive development or the development in the emotion centers, it's not really specific to a region, because self-regulation comes from the circuitry between your prefrontal cortex and your limbic system, the dance between what do these emotions kind of pull or motivate us to do versus what might my long-term interests say that I should do. And we all know that dance. We all know that dance, that feeling, that urge of something that's pulling our emotions that sometimes we have to override. Has anyone here ever said something out of anger, for instance, that maybe you later regretted? No? Yeah, okay, so anyone over here, you didn't raise your hands, you're liars. And now I know that about you, that you would lie to us, right? It's that dance. Or if you ever went on a diet and the next day you go to work and someone's brought in donuts and you're like, oh, I know I really shouldn't, but here it is, right? That's that dance of regulation. And this is one of the most exciting pieces of what we know about development, because that circuit, that dance is still developing in the brains of adolescents. And in short, that is what we cite as the reason, what the courts reference for why we should treat adolescents differently, because that is still developing. It's one of the most exciting parts, in my opinion, about the developmental science. Now, I've said all of that, and now there's the elephant in the room. What I just talked about is what we know about adolescent development if you were to look at that in any random high school in the nation. Anyone. But what that doesn't speak to is the impact that trauma has on development. You're going to hear more about that from the other speakers today. So I'm not going to dive into it, but I think probably everybody here knows that trauma has an impact on the brain and how we develop. As we are exposed to experiences, our brain is rewiring itself. It's such an amazing property. And for any of us as we grew up, this is how we're learning. We're learning how to ride a bike. We're learning to read. We're learning manners, how to say thank you. We're learning how to apologize. And based on our environment, we're rewiring our brains to be able to do that. A brain that's exposed to especially chronic violence is going to be wired to survive. And a lot of the young people who come in contact with the juvenile justice system have been exposed to trauma, things that children shouldn't be exposed to. Houselessness, food insecurity, violence, abuse, neglect, and all of these things have had an impact on their brain and on their development and how that's expressed. That said, the adolescent brain is built to overcome. When we talk about the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to experience, we have a very fancy word for it. And this is the only piece of jargon that I would hope that you can walk away with today, which is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to rewire itself in response to experience. I'm going to say it twice. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to rewire itself in response to experience. And there's 2 times in life where that ability to rewire is greater than any other. The first is during the first years of life, those formative years, about 0 to 4. The second is during adolescence, which means that we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity during a time of life where the brain is ready and primed to learn and change. So we've got the opportunity to provide services that are developmentally appropriate to meet young people where they are so that they have those opportunities to achieve. We get to leverage connection, especially with peers. You're going to hear that theme from Moses today. We have the opportunity to create pathways for young people, to create opportunities for hope. And that's what rehabilitation is. That's everything. I want to thank Capital Classroom for inviting me to even be able to speak with you. I know that was a lot of trust, and I appreciate that you put your trust in me. I want to thank you all for listening. You all now have an honorary degree in developmental science because you laughed at my jokes. And I'm going to turn it back on over to Ron. Thank you.
So next up, we got my guy Kalev coming up here speaking. Very passionate.
All right, thank you everyone for being here today. I want to talk today about why the Youth Hope Act is a bipartisan bill. But first, let me just say, I come from a conservative past. Both of my parents are descended from pioneers who started out with little, but made a new life for themselves. They always passed on their values, their faith, and their belief that with hard work and perseverance, anything is possible. I believe this bill truly shows the depth of our shared values. This Youth Hope Act doesn't automatically release an incarcerated individual once they've reached some arbitrary marker. On the actual truth, this Youth Hope Act says to an individual that if they want to live fully again, then they must take responsibility, put in the hard work, and use all the help that is around them to form themselves into a new person. If an individual cannot show actual evidence of having reached this rehabilitation, they will not be released. But if a youth decides to put in this hard work, use the help around them, and raise themselves up from the ashes, then they can be released under parole by the Intermittent Sentencing Review Board. With this bill, we are telling an entire generation of youth that no matter how far you have fallen, there is no place you cannot rise from to become a great American citizen in a land of freedom. And I just beg everybody here, conservative, independent, liberal, whoever you are, just look at our shared values in this bill. This bill promotes growth, responsibility, and hope. It is people with these values who both built up our nation and people with these values who brought it forth to where it needs to be. And it is youth supported by these values with this Youth Hope Act that will continue on in a legacy of freedom and full actualization of the American dream. Thank you.
Next up, we have Brian Rodriguez coming to talk about the cost of incarceration.
My name is Brian Rodriguez. I got incarcerated at 17. I am now 23, about to be 24. I'm one of the very, I want to say like a couple few left here. Can you hear me? Yeah, a couple few left here that are not in prison, but are soon to be going to prison. Today I will be informing you on the various and different costs of incarceration in Washington's Juvenile Rehabilitation and Department of Corrections. One of the biggest pieces of the Youth Hope Act is the sum estimation of the total cost that encompasses it on both a micro and macro level. Today, I'll be shedding light on the cost of a single incarcerated individual, the prison industrial complex through an incarcerated individual's perspective, and the different costs and effects of harboring rehabilitated young people in the prison system. One of the first things that you find out when you become incarcerated that is portrayed quite well is the simple fact that you are a number and you are worth a certain amount of money per year. According to the Justice Policy Institute in 2020, in their sticker shot 2020 cost of youth incarceration, Washington's juvenile rehabilitation facilities, depending on the facility type and services, usually averages or ranges around $180,000 to $23,000 to $230,000 per youth annually. These costs are usually associated with and correlate to the staffing, mental health services, rehabilitative treatments offered, security, high school education, college degrees, counseling, healthcare, facility maintenance, substance abuse and addiction programs, mentor programs, and academic programs, vocational training, certification programs, and the list goes on. A very key takeaway is the cost of incarcerating a single youth for 1 year could potentially fund 12 public school students per year, or 4 associate degrees, or 2 full bachelor degrees when looking at the Education Data Initiative. Investing in education rather than incarceration of youth is both financially and socially beneficial. In the fiscal year of 2022, DOC's institutional cost, average daily population, and the cost per incarcerated individual per day, all institutions cost, depending on when the individual is shipped off to, can range from $42,000 to $108,000 annually. When I first read this, it's not to shame DCYF or anything, but it seemed logistical to send 43 people to DOC, right? The margins are perfect, less cost, less funding, right? And that's kind of why I kind of want to shed light on the prison industrial complex as well. It's real, it's there, and for most of you who don't know what the prison industrial complex may be, it is a term that is used to describe the overlapping interests of governments and industry and the industry business that use surveillance, policing, and imprisonment as solutions to economic, social, and political problems. These systems include prisons, the bail system, courts, school to prison pipeline, and so on. One of the major ones is private prisons. Private prisons are the main complexes that solicit and promote the PIC. Private prisons can hold inmates according to the contracts with the government and receive profits based on how many inmates they can hold and for the average length of the inmate sentences. Private prisons make more profit with more inmates, so instead of working with the goal of rehabilitating people and returning them to society, they work with the goal of keeping as many inmates incarcerated for as long as possible. The private prison system not only profits by keeping and incarcerated people, but they also do not have to disclose how they spend their money and have little oversight on inhumane treatment that happens in prison labor. Prison labor has been around since slavery was abolished with the 13th Amendment in 1885, when the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution. It stated that the slave labor was now illegal except as a punishment for a crime. This loophole essentially allows prisons to do or exert hard or most labor in general with little to no pay and sometimes for large corporations. Our criminal justice system is riddled with injustices, but the PIC creates and upholds some of the most inhumane and unjust systems. When I met the different costs and effects of harboring rehabilitated young people in the prison system, I looked to my brothers over here, and most of us got past our 25th birthday, and we have conversations outside of here in our cells, and kind of goes over the basic humanity of ourselves. Like, why are we still locked up? Why are we going to DOC? Why? I've been doing this hard work for 9 to 8 years. Why am I going to DOC now? Swear I had it. So I counted out the numbers. In total and on average with my time served and the rest of my sentence, the 9 to 8 years that I have been at JRA will have cost taxpayers and the state $1,620,000, and the rest of my sentence at DOC will cost around $567,000. That's a lot of money for one person. The biggest key takeaway that I really want you guys to leave with is we think of this bill, or a lot of people think of the bill as just releasing a criminal. When essentially, like, my peers here, over there, do you see in this uniform? We don't think of it as that. We think of it, we're still humane. Even when we commit our crime, we're still humane. We just made mistakes. I had a conversation with one of my little cousins, I think it was a year ago. And somehow we were talking about taxes because she was about to turn 18. She was trying to move out of her mom's house and wanted to start a new life. And she was kind of like going over the basic tax paying, like, where do my taxes go? Like, where do they go? And she brought up that, like, a similar concept to the prison industrial system that she was like, you know what? If my taxes are keeping you in jail, like, I don't want to pay them no more. And I was like, whoa, hold on. No, pay your taxes. But like it hurt me in a sense because like she thought of it that way, that she's paying to keep me in jail when she knows who I am, that I basically raised her since she was a kid. And it cut deep and it hit different because she knew me. And a lot of people don't know my peers here, most of which are good people. They just made bad mistakes when they were young.
That speech that Brian just went, cost of incarceration. It's crazy to think like how much it costs for us to stay here for a year equals like 4 college tuitions. Like, but next up we will have Kyle and Egg coming to talk about rehabilitation to dehabilitation.
And so before I get started, I really just want to shout out those people that have really been, supporting us throughout this whole journey. Noel Frames, Farvar, and Emily. I just really want to give them a big round of applause for all the work that they did. So I thank you all for being here today. Your presence speaks volume about your commitment, your dedication to finding those solutions. Also is giving us, those people that aren't often heard, that voice. A lot of us in this situation, we don't have that opportunity to be heard. But But, my name is Kyler Name. For the past 7 years, I've been incarcerated. Throughout that time, I found my path towards rehabilitation. That is with education, finding mentors and becoming a mentor myself with youth here at Green Hill. As we all know, we enter the facility as young people, each of us carrying a different story. Some of us come from communities deeply entrenched in gang culture, violence, and drugs, and others just made a single thoughtless mistake that forever altered the course of our lives, stealing away our right to simply be kids. Green Hills provided us with an opportunity for transformation, a chance to rebuild ourselves from the inside out. And for me, that journey has involved immersing myself in education, earning my bachelor's degree, seeking out and learning from positive mentors, and ultimately becoming one myself. But my story is just one among many. I've met some of the most extraordinary individuals since being here at Green Hill. And despite the odds, they're all redefining what it means to thrive. I've met poets, artists, musicians, self-taught linguists, and all of whom have used their creativity, resilience, and drive to find new paths towards self-discovery. The talent and potential here at Green Hill is staggering, yet it often goes unnoticed by the world outside these walls. Incarcerated individuals like those of us here often face a system that sees only our past mistakes and not the potential for positive transformation. However, rehabilitation facilities like Green Hill offers a chance for us to address the root cause of our behaviors. Whether that's addiction, trauma, or lack of education, true rehabilitation is not just about punishment, it's about restoration, skill building, and the opportunity to make a real change. It focuses on providing us with the tools necessary for personal growth, including education, therapy, vocational training, and mentorship. And this framework of rehabilitation is designed to guide us towards positive transformation so that when we leave here, we're equipped to reintegrate into society, successful, and lead law-abiding lives. We're not defined by our past mistakes. Instead, we're defined by the effort and determination we put into changing the courses of our futures. Green Hill offers a framework for growth, but it is up to us to take advantage of the opportunities. Rehabilitation is a process that helps us move forward, rebuild our lives, and contribute positively to the world outside. We're proof that when given the chance, young people can turn their lives around, creating not just new futures for themselves, but contributing to the strength of our community and societies at large. With great success and positive change, however, comes a chance for rehabilitation and setbacks. On our journeys towards transformation, just like rehabilitation, rehabilitation can be influenced by our current situation, goals, people around us, and our environments. Rehabilitation refers to the process of weakening or impairing an individual's ability to grow or heal, often by placing them in environments that hinder progress and personal development. When young people are placed in adult prisons rather than receiving the rehabilitation they need, they often experience rehabilitation, becoming hardened by violence, isolation, and lack of meaningful support. Instead of acquiring the skills and mindsets necessary for reintegration in society, they're often exposed to environments where survival takes precedence over growth. It has been proven that kids who receive extensive prison sentences, which later force them into adult facilities, are not rehabilitated, but rehabilitated instead. If our goal in sending young people to jail is to rehabilitate them and provide them with the proper skills and knowledge for success upon release, isn't it counterproductive to send them to get lost in the adult prison system? This bill will stop kids from being sent to prison and will not place them in environments where the focus is fight or flight, putting all the hard work they've done here at risk. The key difference between rehabilitation and rehabilitation lies in the environment and the approach taken to address an individual's needs. Rehabilitation creates opportunities for growth, offering the support and empowerment necessary to break free from past mistakes. It helps young people build the skills they need to create a better future. And on the other hand, rehabilitation traps individuals in cycles of harm and failure, often exacerbating the very issues that led to their incarceration in the first place. For young people especially, the right environment and support systems are critical for breaking the cycle of criminal activity. When we invest in rehabilitation, we invest in their potential. When we resort to rehabilitation, we risk turning them into products of their circumstances, trapped in cycles of crime and punishment. So today, I ask you to see us for what we are, not criminals, but individuals full of untapped potential. Help us continue to build on this opportunity, advocate for more resources, more mentorship, and more pathways to success. Because what we accomplish here can ripple out into the world beyond these walls, creating a future where we all have a chance to succeed. And I want to end this off by a quote by Angela Davis that says, "I'm no longer accepting things I cannot change. I'm changing things that I cannot accept." Thank you.
I'm back again. So I want to speak to you guys about, I don't know how to put this, like alienation to like reformation. I feel like it really does take a lot of support and grown people, adults in your life to motivate you to see more in yourself. Like I feel like I had someone see more in me before I could see more in me, you know, to believe in myself. And I just want to talk about how the system belittles us so much from the beginning to the end, the way that we're being defined and the way that we are seen to be. Like after so long, you start to like believe those things. I feel like it's almost like um, feeling some type of like dark energy. And like over time, I feel like we lose sight of direction and we don't really know what to do. And I feel like we fear to change. We fear to step out of our comfort zone and do something that we've never done. And that's where I feel like a lot of my peers are right now at this moment, you know, like they're scared to change. They don't really want to take that blindfolded leap because they're not sure of their abilities. They're not sure that they can be a hardworking person because they never seen that, you know, they're not sure they can finish college because they never seen no one finish college. So like, I feel like it's like our duty as people who are incarcerated to help those individuals, you know, just like I once was helped, you know? And I feel like sometimes we focus more on the charge instead of the individual, you know? And I believe we have to understand individuals' youth lives and the things that they've been through and all these different traumatic effects that happen to our brain and the brain science that Grace was sharing with us earlier and how our brain develops in that impulsiveness and that ready to react instead of think. Like if someone doesn't take the time to help us, then like who is, you know? It's like how I always felt and seen it. And I didn't realize like we are in control of our own destiny. We can choose how we wake up and feel every day. We can choose to be sad and dread our mistakes, or we can choose to take accountability and rise above. I believe that it's important that not only our youth, but also advocates and other people who are sharing spaces with us all the time. Like the work that you guys do, I feel like is like, it's something big, like the inspiration that I feel knowing that there's people on the outside who actually care about our stories and people who actually want to see us do better. I feel like it's like a feeling that we never felt before. Similar to what I say, sharing spaces with people that we thought were on the other side. Um, and like every time, like being in spaces like this, the energy that it brings and the excitement of me and my peers, like you can't, like I don't know where you can find that. And you know, just even my peers hearing about it, you know, a lot of guys act like they really want to do this. And I feel like we have to create more spaces to where we are showing our youth how to love each other. We're showing our youth how to love themselves. Because if we don't love ourselves, it's going to be hard for us to love others. And if we don't care about the things that we're doing, then we're always going to mess it up for the next person. So I feel like we have to be more aware of not just where we're at, but where are we going, you know, because we can sit here and dread it all day, but I believe that anything that any of us want to be, we can really be. And I used to think that was a joke, but I truly believe it now. Thank you. Next, I like to call up my guy Moses, man. He's gonna come up here and talk about peer influence.
What's going on with everybody today? My name is Moses Mutel. I'm 20 years old, and I've been a resident here at Green Hill for approximately 3 years. I committed my crime when I was 15 years old. and I was thrown into the criminal justice system. And let me just tell you, at the age of 15, I was lost. I had no sense of guidance, no sense of direction, no sense of who I wanted to be. I didn't love myself. I didn't even know who Moses really was. 2 years later, I was transferred into Green Hill, and within a week of my stay at Green Hill, I was put into a unit of majority older residents. I'm talking residents 21 years plus, and me coming at 17, won't lie, was pretty spooked. See a lot of people with beards, and me with my little baby face, I was a little spooked. But man, just seeing the type of timing that these older people were on was really crazy. I mean, I never knew people in our circumstances can achieve the goals that some of these people achieve. I'm watching people get their associate's degree. I'm watching people get their bachelor's degree. I'm watching people weld. I never even knew what welding was until I came into the system. Man, all those things inspired me to do what I'm doing today, which is really following my peers' footsteps. And man, it's been a long journey. It's been a long journey that I've had to come across. And man, I'm sorry, a little nervous. Being surrounded by a whole bunch of people that are doing positive things. At 17 years old, I didn't know that if you surround yourself with people that are doing positive things, you will most likely tend to do positive things. And now I understand that you are who you surround yourself with. I never really knew how I could really give back to the people that I call mentors today. I never really knew, what I can do in my circumstances. And so really I've devoted my whole kind of sentence to really advocating for the people that helped rehabilitate me, for the people that helped me, gave me self-guidance, for the people that tell me how to love myself. Some of those people are in this crowd today, and I'd like to thank you guys because you guys really showed me who Moses Mutel really is. I believe the biggest thank you that I could possibly give is to keep advocating for this Youth Hope Act, to give the people that mentored me a chance to do it on a larger scale in the community, and to give those residents a chance to prove to society that they can be a profitable member in society and help society. With all those wonderful things being said, I would now like to introduce a mentor inside Green Hill and a well-known mentor in the community, Brother Rashad.
All right. Look, I might not be here long because this is for the young people and they're doing an excellent job. For real. Those who I may not know that I'm introducing myself for the first time. My name is Rashad, and most of the young people call me Brother Rashad. I teach the BSU, which is the Black Student Union here, and I also teach as an adjunct for Centralia College, where I teach public speaking, where all these young people were in my class. So it's good to see them speak. We'll talk about the gum later. But and I teach, and I also run a program, administrative program called the Made Men, which is Making a Difference Every Day, which is a peer-to-peer mentoring program that was allowed to be put into Green Hill, and they go into the units and they do de-escalation with each other. And I'm just here to just let you know that I'm a father. I'm a father of three kids. I got 2 young boys, I got a baby girl. And I start out by that because I go home to my babies. But they also know I got babies here too. And you need to know that you have extended family members who are giving me the energy to come back and do this work with you. And I'm not just as impacted. I'm not. But I am education impacted. You know, my study, the person that I study real hard is Malcolm X, and I tell these guys this. And I study Martin Luther King Jr. And I remember Martin Luther King Jr. said this: the two most dangerous things in this world is conscientious stupidity and sincere ignorance. So it has nothing to do with you walking down the street with your boys, you packing, because somebody else is packing too. And when I sit in these classrooms and I see you beam up because you have an education or you learn something new to move forward with, that's why I'm in here, because I want to give you that tool. That tool is powerful. Nobody can take that from you. And now when I hear you all having your AAs and you also going on to continue to get your BAs, and now you are so excited to go into trades and go into school and move forward that way, that is amazing. I work with these young people who, when they get out, they go to group homes. Some of these group homes, we have amazing young men who are going into the education field, who are now working within foster care, with the foster care program with the students. So I would say this bill is very important, and I'm an advocate for it because I want you to get your education. That's important. With all that being said, I just want to make sure you know that I'm an advocate. I'm Brother Rashad, I'm Father Rashad, I'm Coach Rashad, I'm Cool Rashad, I'm Hooper Rashad, however you want to call it. And I just want to make sure you know that I got nothing but love for you. And as a mentor, the first thing I have to come and do is show you love. And that's how I hope that you receive that. And I know every time I see you, you reciprocate that to me. And I appreciate you all. Thank you all.
How's everybody doing today? Everybody's doing good. I just want to take a moment to really just applaud everybody who's came up here and spoke. I feel like they deserve that, nonetheless. Now we have a little brief activity for you all. I have Timothy Puller coming around with some papers that I want you guys to look at. Now, this is in relation to what I'm going to be speaking about and what Grace spoke to us about earlier, right? This is an ACEs survey. So this stands for Child Adverse Experiences. And this is just something for you to look at and to take a mental note. You know, these questions are really hard. So I don't advise that you actually answer them or like speak too much in depth about your experiences, but I want you to actually look and see what the survey consists of. So we're going to take a few minutes to look over that, maybe talk with your peers about it, and then we have our next speaker coming up.
Once again, it's just always great to have you guys here and to share this space. So I'm gonna get started on my portion. My name is Kristen DeVay Ativalu Ford, right? I'm a Green Hill resident. I've been here for the past 5 years. I've been involved in Capital Classroom for the past 3. I've had the opportunity to work with so many amazing people. First, I wanna give thanks to Representative Farvar, Senator Frame, Emily, and everybody who has worked as a collective to help us bring this bill to life, right? Pursue for Change was an event that started, I want to say 7 to 8 years ago was probably the first one. It wasn't so based on legislation, but it was based more on the reforms inside of our institution. You know, how can we bring you guys into these spaces and have these conversations and establish what rehabilitation looks like in real time, right? And so forth over the past few years, it has kind of evolved into something more. It has evolved into something more powerful that we have used as a tool and quite frankly, a pathway for us to voice our opinion and really gain a political presence, right? My fault. So first things first, I want to briefly talk about ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. As the previous speakers kind of spoke to before, this is a critical time period, right? Adverse Childhood Experiences stands for any traumatic event that occurs throughout an individual's childhood or teenage years. Now, these events can be anything from abuse, neglect, depression, addiction, and so on. Basically, essentially anything that the brain will perceive as negative stress, right? Now, experiencing these things while the brain is still in the developmental stages is so critical to the brain's capacity to grow, and ultimately, these occurrences affect the physical architecture of the brain itself. It's crazy to think that. The reason I want to bring this up is because I feel like it is so important to illustrate the population of youth that we have in our facilities. I had the opportunity to go through 3 of our big living units, and I surveyed over 106 residents on this exact activity that I just had you guys go through. All right. Youth who experience ACEs are more likely to struggle with emotional regulation, self-esteem, and also the ability to assess risky situations. Out of 106 residents, 83 had 4 or more ACEs, 75 had 5 or more ACEs, and 63 had 6 or more ACEs. But I want everybody to kind of just take that in for a second. Conducting the survey, it was very evident to me that a lot of our youth are greatly impacted by trauma and ACEs and are more susceptible to delinquency and self-harming behavior. I don't want it to get too dark in here. It's a little heavy, but good thing that we have things set in place, that we have a solution, right? There's a thing called Hope Science. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with that. It's been a thing over the past 10 years. It was introduced by 2 individuals by the name of Casey Gwynn and Chan Hellman, right? Together, they actually wrote a book called Hope Rising. This is the book that I'm speaking about today. Now, these practices focus on using hope as a way to overcome trauma, adversity, and in some cases, even illnesses, right? Now, one question I have for everybody in this room is, what is hope? What does hope look like? What does it look like to be hopeful? What does it look like to be hopeless? Right? Now, this book defines hope in a way that is exceptional and spot on, in my personal opinion. And I quote, "Hope is the belief that your future can be brighter than your past, and that you actually have a role to play in making it better." Something I want to highlight about that definition is when it states role, meaning that action is required for us to have hope. Given that action is required for us to have hope, that is the biggest thing that separates wishing from hoping, right? Being able to look forward and identify possible pathways, being able to establish goals that are reasonable and obtainable, and nonetheless, being able to take hope into us in everything that we do. Every day that we wake up, we can take hope and turn that into a lifestyle, and overall turn that into our reality. Now, there's a formula for hope, and it's as easy as 2 + 2, so I'm pretty sure we're all going to learn something today. All right. And the formula goes willpower, which is your motivation, your agency, right? Plus way power, which is considered to be your pathways, equals hope. Now, for this formula to be successful, you need both components to achieve hope. It doesn't matter how many pathways you have. If you lack willpower, if you lack the ability to apply yourself, you will accomplish nothing. Same thing applies vice versa. If you have a strong willpower, but 0 pathways to achieve the goal that you hope for, hope will diminish over time. When one fails again and again at reaching one goal, whether it be from the lack of willpower or the lack of pathways, the individual either remains one who wishes or loses all signs of hope, reverting to a life that is apathetic towards their future and to their goal. The Youth Hope Act is not only an incentive, but it is a pathway for youth to take accountability of their actions and to commit themselves to the rehabilitation. It is the last step of the equation for giving young people hope. It is the last chance to see our children have changed before we send them to a place that we know does them more harm than good. It is our last chance to reach our hope and give that to the youth who are falling through the cracks of the system. And as we all can see, we are in desperate times more than we have ever been. So I asked the question, really giving a statement. As a state, as a community, let's create the pathway of hope for our young people so they can achieve the accolades that are deepest in them, so they can be the best versions of themselves, so they can be the mentors and leaders that Moses spoke about earlier, so we can actually give real effect to the rehabilitation that we strive for. Thank you.
Time is kind of restricted. So we have a panel left, and if you can stay, we would appreciate it. And if you have to go, we understand 100%. But for the panel, man, all the guys for the panel, come up, please.
So my question is something that I've been struggling with on Green Hill as much as you guys. How do you guys continue to find light in oppression in a depressive environment when you're consumed by anxiety, hurt, being scared all the time? You don't know what's going to happen. You know, how do you guys continue to find light? Because obviously you guys are doing an okay job. You guys are continuing to program. You guys are continuing to be great human beings. How do you guys continue to find light?
I'll speak to that very briefly. I want to highlight things that Moses, when Moses spoke about mentorship, you know, and the power of surrounding yourself by, you know, an elite circle. You know, how can we be around people that will sharpen us, better us, and push us to be, you know, everything that we should be and more. When you're in a dark place, and it kind of talked about this in this book that I was just mentioning to you guys. Your supporters are essentially your cheerleaders, right? Those are the people that help fuel your drive. Those are the people that help give you inspiration and motivation each and every day. They're almost essentially your why. You have to find your cheerleader, but not everybody is going to be, you know, right next to you, guiding you through the way. Not everybody is going to be rooting for you to win, but trust and believe that there is individuals, whether they be inside of these walls or outside of these walls, that want to see you all do good. Find those people and stay close to them.
I would also, before you applaud, okay, I would like to also point out that you guys being here has not only made a difference in our lives, but to our new youth right here. So if you could just give yourselves an applaud for these youth here as well. You being here has given them an opportunity to see what we do is actually making an impact. So kudos to you guys.
Just to follow up on his thing, I guess a two-part question. One, it seems like you guys are mentors and you guys are fighting for this bill that may not even impact you because you might be older and moving on. So like Lil Bro said, what's your why for fighting for something that you might not even get? Like, it's like me going to the store buying something that I'm not even gonna get to eat, right? But it's for somebody else. So why are you guys so adamant about this bill that may not even be used to help you out in your situation?
Man, so for me, you know, going through the system, you know, I got locked up at such a young age. I was 15 when I first got incarcerated, you know. before I came to jail, I didn't know how to be a successful member of the community. I didn't know how to be a man. I didn't know how to, do what my parents would want me to do and do what I was supposed to do. But, just being that role model for those next guys and showing people that we can make positive change in these communities. As you see, but we all got these nice little shirts on, but this ain't just a shirt, but it's a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? We're over here really vouching not just for ourselves, but for these next generation of young men. Obviously here, these are our next group of young leaders here. We're out here laying down the groundwork, not just for ourselves, but for them as well. Because like you said, this don't affect all of us. But if we can affect at least one kid, we know that we've done something right.
I think the most important thing to remember when you're doing advocacy like this is regardless if the bill affects you or not, I mean, I could say for myself, it would affect me. But the biggest thing to remember is what you're fighting for is not a chance just for your own life. It's a chance for every life that's going to follow you. And it's just something you got to realize where when you're fighting for yourself, you're doing great. When you're fighting for everyone else, you're doing majorly great. And it's this heart and lifestyle you have to have. And I think the biggest thing to always remember is looking over there and realizing that I might lay the foundation for hope for one of those guys, like the foundation of hope that was laid for me. It makes it worth it if this bill never would have affected me at all.
I just want to say something similar to Kaya. Our beliefs, our values aren't anything to prove to any legislator, senator, or people that work for the government. This is what we choose to be every day. This is what we work for. If you support us, we will support ourselves as well, and thank you for supporting us as well. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what bill gets passed because we're going to still be the same. But it would better us as humans to be able to get a second chance, and for most, a first chance.
Like I said, we've been doing Capital Classroom for a few years now. We've, a lot of the young men that you see or young men that I passed through here have worked on multiple projects nationwide, have held keynote speakings for summits nationwide that have done so many great things that were not in relation to this bill. So when you ask, what do we do as far as, advocating for things that may not affect us, we're always going to advocate for things that may not affect us, because regardless to where if it affects us or not, if my voice isn't heard or uplifted right here and right now, there will be another Chris. There will be another voice just like mine saying the exact same thing that I'm saying right now. So it's critical that you listen to it. It's critical that you hear it and that we act upon it, regardless of what the situation may be.
Hi, gentlemen. I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about the upcoming legislative session, how folks can support your bill, and what it would mean to you if everybody in this room did one thing to help move your bill forward. What would that mean to you?
One thing for sure, I know my peers can touch on this as well, is being strong, not only advocates, but I want to say allies in this work, because it's one thing to advocate for, some things, to use your voice. But to be quite frankly, I'm looking for the individuals that are willing to put their foot in this matter and be an ally in what we preach and an ally in what we do, right? And that looks like, co-sponsoring for our bills, writing your names on these pink slips, on these blue slips, right? I'm trying to still get familiar on exactly how all that works. But I just need a yes from you, right? Whatever organization you work for, whatever institution you are employed by, please take this, run this by your higher ups, do whatever we got to do to bring awareness to this bill because we understand the importance.
Yeah, kind of going off what Chris is saying is, we've all heard the term actions speak louder than words. A lot of people need to put that foot forward like Chris is talking about and, share that awareness. Because like I talked about in my speech, a lot of us come from diverse backgrounds that sitting over here talking in front of legislators and important people like you guys, like that wasn't even in our future when we were younger. But now we have that opportunity to be here and we want you guys to help us not only share our stories, but motivate the next person, be able to put your signature on that blue sheet and that pink sheet, as my guy Chris was talking about.
I think for everybody here, obviously, pink sheet, blue sheet, you see it, throw your name right on the bottom there. But I think it's a big thing, senators, representatives, and everybody else here, every single voice that we can get to this cause and to this hope matters the universe. So it's just, I would encourage every single person here, if you can sign that sheet, please do so. If you're not someone who can, if you're in a different position, then please go on your way and realize what you saw here and just tell everybody. Tell everybody about the hope you saw. Tell everybody about the talents. You can walk away with one thing, simply walk away with this. You saw hope being triumphant over the darkest situations today, and you're gonna see it 1,000 times more.
For those in legislative power, I would just like to put out a quote from Martin Luther King. He said, "Justice too long delayed is justice denied." I just wanted to make that very clear. Justice too long delayed is justice denied. So the longer we take to save these youth, not only in here, but in our communities, we need to take action. And that's final.
So yeah, and first, props, man. You know, I love you guys. I respect you guys. First, let me give you a salute, right, for your service in real life, right? But I did want to ask that here today, one thing that I see that's a current theme, no matter who's speaking, is that you want to center your humanity, right? Like you want folks to see your humanity. Also, you're looking for forgiveness, right? Folks is looking for a second chance. Like my guy really pointed out, what's really a first chance, right? My question to you is, are you able to see your own humanity, right? Through what has happened? Are you able to give your own self a second chance? Are you able to give your own self that redemption? Because that's where it has to start. Speak on that.
I think that is the fuel and push for everything that we do here, talking about within, you know. I've heard the statistics, I've even heard the sayings like the average person doesn't even know themselves unless they've done 30 days of solitary confinement. Can you think about that? Can you think about no distractions, no voices, no responsibilities? Nobody's, to you, it feels like nobody's listening to you. Nobody's caring about what you're thinking about. You're just in this box for 30 days. No interactions with no other people. Limited access to showers, limited access to the phone. It is critical that you understand who you are and what you do this for. Because if you don't have it, just like we went over, you know, in this book talking about your willpower, if you don't have that motivation, if you don't have that drive, that fuel, you won't be able to accomplish anything. There's not no amount of work that can be put into you if you don't figure that out for yourself. And one thing I want to really highlight is that by not implementing a bill as such as this, not only, like my guy TJ said, is justice being denied, but we are sending youth who have adverse childhood experiences, who have low levels of hope, to environments that we know will do them more harm than good, and expect them to take accountability for their actions. But we can't even acknowledge or reward the fact that they have changed. It almost seems like we're breeding criminals. So we want to talk about community safety. It starts right here. It starts with the young people who will be the legislators, who will be the judges, who will be the lawyers, the advocates, the strong people who will push this cause. Thank you.
I think I just want to say this in response to that. You heard the formula for hope. Willpower plus way power equals hope. I think all of you could see today, we up on the stage, we sitting over there, we sitting in the crowd. We provided the willpower. You need to provide the way power.
Okay, guys, we're kind of running on time, so wrap it up. Last question.
Man, we talked about all the lows of this year. What was the most joyful day that you guys have had this year? What has been the most impactful?
For me personally, I think it was being able to come back here to Green Hill and still seeing that no matter what, we will strive forward and we'll strive beyond.
Me personally, I feel like it was my little brother. Like the innocence of a child, right? Like they're very blunt and funny, right? But when I try to break it down to him, he's 13 right now. He's attending middle school. He has good grades. I coach him every day. But I try to tell him about this bill, and he basically like questioned himself. He was like, "Wait, you would be able to get out? Like you would come home?" And like he started tearing up. I could hear him tear up, and I'm like, maybe. And it kind of hurt me a little bit because he used to call me dad as when he was younger. So I just look to that every day. I'm a role model, and I should be more. Thank you.
Like my guy Monjo's talking about, we have had a lot of lows. Here, obviously, you guys seen all that stuff. There's been a lot of lows, but with that, there's also a lot of highs. My highest thing is, I'm a first generation college student. Earlier this year, me and a couple of my guys, we were actually the first juveniles to receive our bachelor's degrees here at Green Hill. The other thing that also always pushes me is, we have a lot of people here that are always going to try to push us to be better than we were the day before. As my guy Mondrell, he's always the one giving us all that game, trying to keep us going, keep us pushing. But at the end of the day, no matter how many times people try to break us down, there's always those guys that are trying to lift us back up.
I think my happiness comes in, through the impact that we can give to others. And even though we've had so many lows, like you mentioned, there's also been so many highs. There's been so many highs. There's been so many small victories that we have definitely been taking and, holding on tightly to. The fact that we can hear first-handedly from, younger individuals that, our change, our initiative, to not only help ourselves, but help our communities has impacted them to do the same thing. You can't put no price on that. And that's the type of thing that makes me happy and joyful every day.
You all have just heard so many accomplishments, yet Fox 13 chooses to put out all of the negatives. So if anyone has any connection with Fox 13 to put something good on the news, it'd be very much appreciated. Palabra.
The call of Representative Farvar, who has been a champion helping us with this bill.
Hi, everyone. I am Daria Farvar. I'm very proud to represent the 46th Legislative District. How's this? Ooh, okay, great. So I have a lot of people to thank, but one person I want to thank who's not in this room today is Representative Hackney, who really helped us lay an important foundation on this. And I really want to make sure I give a shout out to him because the work that he has done in trying to socialize this and tell me about this and educate me about what I can do on this was really important. So a little bit about me. I'm really proud to be the youngest member of the legislature right now. I just turned 30 this year, and so it's really weird for me to call all of y'all young people because I still feel like I'm a young people, but people keep telling me that I'm not anymore because I'm 30. So I've got a identity crisis going on here. But I was elected when I was 28. I ran when I was 27, and when I think about that, I really have to stop and remember how different my life could have been if I had made just a couple of different choices, if I had different opportunities and challenges in front of me. I'm not that much older than all of y'all, right? And that hits home with me really every day. And that's part of why I want to do this work. It is a privilege for me to be able to serve the district and to serve all of you. And I don't want to call y'all young people, I want to call you guys my peers, because you really are. You're my peers. And we're in this together, we're gonna do this work together. Opportunity is a big part of this conversation. Different opportunities, different challenges in front of us makes different choices and can lead us on very different paths. But at the end of the day, we're not so different, right? There's a lot more that connects us than actually separates us. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to remind my colleagues of. That opportunity and the choices and the decisions you all have been able to learn and grow from while you're here are so important. And we have to hold on to that and make sure that you have another opportunity, which is to go back home, to be in community and to prove that you have learned and you have grown and you have developed into different people. I know I'm not the same person I was when I was 28, when I was 27, when I was 18, 16, you name it. We talked about brain science earlier, fundamentally different people. And the world needs to be able to see that, including Fox 13. So yeah, I second that. If anyone's got connections, I'm here for that. And that opportunity is something that really many of my colleagues are coming to understand. One of the props I've got in my hand is actually a blue sheet for this bill that we're going to drop today. And we've got 15 people signed on to it.
That's awesome.
We're going to drop this today. We're going to get a bill number and we're going to hit the ground running because there's so much energy in this room. I don't know about all of you, but I'm really fired up. This is what I needed to get excited about what's going to be, frankly, a hard legislative session. But with the energy in this room and with each one of you showing up, I have a good feeling about this. Now, once I drop this, we're going to get a bill number. We're going to get it pretty darn quickly, hopefully tomorrow. And if you want to know what that bill number is, be ahead of the curve there, you have to take this other prop in my hand. This great one-pager. How many of y'all have it in front of you? This great one-pager has a little QR code at the bottom of it, and you probably don't have your phone on you right now, but take this with you or look out for an email from DCYF that gives you the same link. This link is going to take you to a form so you can actually stay in touch so that when things are happening throughout legislative session, you know when to sign in, you know when to testify, you know when to contact the committee, to contact your legislators, and you're going to get that bill number before anybody else. It's so nice to be here with y'all today, and I cannot express how much of a privilege it is for me to have been asked by all of you guys to work on this. I take that seriously. I've made a commitment to you. We're going to follow through on that commitment. We're going to push this as far as we can, if not get this done. So thank you for all you're doing, for your courage to show up and tell your stories and talk about what's really going on. I have sat up before those panels in testimony. Let me tell you, it is intense and it can be really frightening to go up there and talk about some of the worst moments of your life. And you all are doing that. I just want to say how important and how impactful that is. Thank you. Let's get this done.
Real quick, Senator Frame and Emily, can you guys please come up here, please? Senator Frame, Representative Farvar, and Emily, throughout this journey, they have really been our #1 advocates for this, and I don't even know what it's like in their days, but they make time for us, and I always appreciate that. We appreciate you guys for everything you guys have done for us, man, and excited to kick off this legislative session, man.
Appreciate you for coming. Thank you so much. And the colors and the roses actually represent certain aspects that these guys admire about all three of you. Unity, commitment, admiration. That's what those colors represent. And so these guys really appreciate all the hard work that you've put forward to, representing them and being alongside them with their journey. And thank you all for coming. We appreciate you.